This is How Do I Do This, the show for anyone asking, is it just me or is this a lot? When I started How Do I Do This, I started it with the idea that I would help heal other people and show my work in real time. But what I didn't expect is how it would start to heal me too. Somewhere between the scripting, the writing, the storytelling, the laughing with people around this table, the DMs with you and Instagram, I started to heal a little bit too, and in ways I didn't expect. So it got me wondering, what role does creativity play in healing? So today, that's the question we're going to ask. Why does creative expression work? What is happening emotionally and in your brain when you create? How creativity can help us process when you can't find the words. And finally, ways that you can use creativity to start help healing yourself, even if you say, hey, I'm not creative. So today, joining me at the table is Marshall Ramsey, who is an award-winning cartoonist, a 2-time Pulitzer finalist, and the man behind some of the most iconic cartoons related to grief and resilience. If you Google his name, you will immediately recognize his artwork. And also Jessica Valor, who is a licensed art therapist who helps people process grief, trauma, and change through creative expression. And she's also a photographer. I'm so glad y'all are both here.
I can't believe I'm getting to sit down with you and talk to you.
I know, after all these years.
I know.
It's so much fun. So much fun. All right. So, tradition from my grandmother Mabel, we have tea around her dining room table because I love the idea of using a new medium to continue telling stories, but also marrying the old with the new. So what kind of tea did y'all choose?
I got detox, and I'm a little bit nervous what that means.
Might make good TV. It might make good TV. You never know.
Then again, it might not.
Not.
I don't know if bats are going to come out of my mouth or something worse.
Yeah.
But anyway, detox.
Yeah. Awesome.
I got the decaf chai.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to be over caffeinated.
Exactly. Yeah.
Messes with our
yeah.
brain.
Too late.
Love chai, but decaf. Yeah.
All right. Well, Jessica, let's start with you because when I first reached out to you and said, I have this idea, you just started telling me all this stuff that was happening in my brain with creativity. And you were like, yes, this makes sense. So can you explain to me and the listeners, when you engage in creativity after loss or trauma, what's actually happening between my ears and for anybody else who's doing anything creative?
I mean, I think creativity, it's about taking your internal world and making it external. And in order to do that, I see it as a whole brain approach. Because there's a lot that has to go on for you to take all this stuff that's brewing inside in your world. You've got to think about your thoughts, your feelings, memories, sensations. And then you got to kind of combine that with problem solving, logic, and reasoning to figure out, like, how are you going to take your internal world and place it outside of you? Like, what colors represent what's going on? What music are you hearing that's going to, translate your grief, your loss, your trauma, whatever it is. So to me, it's like if you're in a creative headspace, it's a sign, it's a positive sign of healing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I said on the first episode that creating a podcast, y'all might listen to this and think it's a crazy way to grieve, but it doesn't sound crazy to you apparently.
No, I mean, you started with this question of how do I do this, right? Yeah. And probably had this idea in your head kind of brewing for a while. And then you had to use problem solving and logic and reasoning to figure out how do you actually make a podcast? And then how do you put your heart into it? How do you put your mom into this? How do you put your grief and your journey? And then through that, you're finding connection.
Wow. Jessica, I'm just going to have you follow me around and validate all of my choices.
I think it's awesome.
Well, thank you. That makes so much sense when you say it because it originally started one morning I woke up and I'm 45 years old and I was so fortunate to have her for 45 years. But based on how I take care of myself and the life expectancy of my family, I will probably live another 45 years without her.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was how do I do the second half of my life without you?
Right.
And there's so much. My son's going to get older. He's going to fall in love, going to go through puberty. And and there's going to be all these big questions, but just right now, the day today, and it started with me just journaling every morning what I was feeling. And my mode of creation has always been writing. I love words.
Yeah.
Being an attorney, I love words. I love putting a contract together. People may think that's weird, but so what have you seen in your practice that makes nonverbal communication sometimes feel safer for people?
I mean, I think it's another language. So I think it's richer, it's deeper. We don't understand that as much. There's not like a code for it. So when we're talking, there's kind of a clear back and forth conversation, right? It's a little predictable. We can hide behind words a little bit. And, I love the expression that grief is not linear. And
I wish it was.
to me, yeah. But to me, then creativity is like anything but a straight line, right? So to me, those things connect so well where you're going to just get a richer processing ability. You're going to create distance too from it. You can take your grief, you can put it on a piece of paper and you can look at it, right? You can revisit a podcast episode and kind of see your journey in real time of how you're processing things. So it gives you some safe distance. It gives you an ability to make meaning from it. I think it's just richer than maybe, there's nothing wrong with words. I love words too, and a back and forth, but there's just something richer about being able to add in that creative element.
Tell me more about the word you use, distance. I think that's really interesting. And how does that help people who have been through kind of a big T trauma? How does the distance play into them not getting over anything, but just kind of moving through it in a healthier way?
Well, I think creativity is a vehicle to move through it. So when we're talking about grief or trauma, like it's easy to get weighed down and feel stuck by it. So if it stays inside and just kind of stewing, you're just struggling with that, right? It's like this tug of war inside you. As soon as you can place it somewhere else, that's where distance can happen. That's like, then you can look at it and you can at least feel like, okay, it's safe. It's somewhere, right? You journaled your thoughts. They're safe. They're somewhere else. They're not just stewing inside my head and having this tug of war inside me.
Almost like creating that to-do list for the next day at the end of the day.
I'm a big fan of to-do lists too. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So what do you say to somebody who comes to you and they say, I think I'm interested in art therapy, but I'm not creative. I'm a person who believes everybody has some creativity in them. But how do you get them started when they're just like, I don't even know why I'm here, but my mom made me come, or because I know you see a lot of teenagers and children and stuff. How do you kind of help them?
I only do stick figures, or I'm not an artist.
Yeah.
I say like everyone gets in their own way with having an inner critic. And with art, apparently we think we need to make masterpieces a lot of times. And creativity is all about process. It's not about the end product. So what I tell them, I'm like, great, you're not here to make a masterpiece. You can trash it at the door. Yeah. This is about process. You might just scribble on a piece of paper. When's the last time you scribbled? Right? Like, let's regress a little bit. Let's have some fun. Maybe we'll do some finger paint. Maybe you're right-handed. Why don't you paint with your left hand? What's that feel like?
Oh, wow.
So it's getting you out of your comfort zone, and it's playing, just being curious. Like that's where creativity starts to me. And that's where art starts. So our idea of it is, we have to be amazing at it. And if we're not good, it's not worth doing. But actually, I think we have to give ourselves permission to play and make mistakes and just have fun.
Well, I think it kind of, for me, you saying that goes in line with, sort of this lie that society tells us that if we're not being profitable with whatever we're doing and we don't have and it's not our purpose, then we shouldn't do it. Whereas we're also multidimensional, that sometimes creating just for the joy of creating is the healing. Yeah. You don't have to monetize everything you make just because you're American, right? And it's nice if you can, but if it brings you joy, that has value.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's so many things too that can easily distract us. And we are in that like society of go, go, go. And a lot of times I'm telling clients, just slow down. Just give yourself like 30 minutes to do nothing, to explore, to just take a walk and not have another distraction. Don't put headphones in. Like just take that walk and just pay attention to your surroundings.
Do you have a story that you can share with us, of course, without violating any privacies, about where you really use some of the tools you have and you and saw somebody take a great emotional turn and how this has really helped them?
Yeah, I mean, I had a client who lost somebody close to them, and he kept going back to a strong memory of a place tied with a grandparent. And I told him, I was like, do you want to maybe make this place? Because it was just a really strong memory. And so then what we ended up doing is we created a little diorama, like if you go back to elementary school, like shoebox style. And it was really cool because he had to tell me all of these details about this memory, like down to the tile on the floor and the backdrop. And there was like grass and rocks. And I had to go and collect all these materials and bring them into session. So like, I felt like I had been there. Like I felt like I had this true understanding. And so then my client, I think, felt really understood. And it was a series of like, over 4 sessions that we're working on this. Whereas I think if we had verbally processed this memory, maybe like half a session kind of talking about this and maybe some healing from that. But working and actively problem solving and figuring out these tiny little pieces and how everything was going to go and building. And then when he saw like the end product, to be like, this is it, this is the place. And then, in turn, he wanted to gift that to a family member who also shared the love of this memory in this place.
So it had this beautiful ripple effect.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, I think that's like the ultimate gift of creativity is when, there isn't always a strong end product, but we often see that. And when there is, that's where it leads to connection and I think further understanding.
I love that. And I love the idea you said of like having a place to sit your grief down. Because I know so many times over these past 11 months, it just felt like I was carrying this invisible backpack and the world was just, I have this image, I don't know what movie it's from, but there's the main character is sitting in Central Park and they're just sitting there and everybody's moving around them very, very fast. And it's like they can't crack. Yeah. They can't even, they're moving so fast they can't even say hello to anybody. And I felt like that so much. But when I go to the tools that work for me, writing, listening to my Spotify playlist that I created that reminds me of my mom that I have labeled sadness. I'm not even kidding. That's how melodramatic I am. It's labeled sadness. And when my husband sees it's on, he's like, so we're listening to sadness. I was like, we are. But it helps me in a lot of ways open up my laptop and create the next episode of this by getting in that space and kind of connecting with her, which I want to turn to Marshall because I think the thing I love so much about your books and your art is that people see it in this short frame and they feel connection with it. You very rarely use words. And I think that's so beautiful. So you started out commenting on the world through your cartoons, but when did you realize that it was connecting people to like a bigger story and feeling?
It's funny. It really started when I was and by the way, following her is like following Taylor Swift. I feel like I'm on stage with the ukulele now. So,
that is really kind.
We're big Taylor fans around here.
So, I knew that. I was going to use Beatles, but I figured Taylor Swift's a little better. But now it's really weird. Mom realized that I could draw when I was about 2. So, I mean, and I was drawing everything, and that's how she kept me quiet in church. But I mean, I've got drawings from when I was a kid, when I was like, from things that went on in the family and things like that. So I was picking up on stuff. One of the gifts of everything that happened to me, and we'll probably get into this a little bit, but, I had some childhood trauma. Who doesn't? But, mine was kind of weird. I learned how to see around corners. So I was able to make 1 and 1 equal 3 pretty early on. And I've always been a good editorial cartoonist because of that, because I can see 2 issues, relate them and so forth. But, I think a good editorial cartoonist not only has a sarcastic side, but they also have different pitches. Like, a baseball pitcher, if they just throw fastball pitches, are not going to last long in the big league.
Sure.
But I can throw a curve. I can throw, And the obituary cartoon somewhere along the way just suddenly started taking off because it wasn't just I just didn't have people walking into heaven. I tried to capture a little bit of their life and then how I felt about it and so forth. And, so what I do is I see an image in my head and I try to describe it, whether it's in words or I try to do it in pictures.
That's awesome. And I think that, if you could talk a little bit about especially the cartoons that I love so much is the Bush cartoons. Can you talk a little bit about how those came to be and why you think they just resonated so much with people?
Yeah, they for two reasons. Number one, and I talk about this a lot even to this day. It happened, it's hard to believe, I think 2019. But Barbara Bush passed away. They announced that she had COPD, I think, and they were going to take her off of treatment. And my mom had died of that. So I knew that she meant that they were just keeping her comfortable. And I thought about her life. She had everything in her life. I mean, her husband is a president. She came from privilege. She had her own platform. Her son was think about it. It's just an incredible life. But she'd suffered the worst loss that any human could possibly lose. She lost a child. They'd lost Robin in the 50s. They had tried everything they could to find a cure, but there was just nothing to be found in the 50s. And what I didn't realize was, and I spoke with Jenna Bush Hager, and she said, yeah, my dad was on his knees talking to Mom about Robin about the same time I thought of that idea. And I thought somebody else, because the cartoon was of Barbara coming into heaven and being greeted by Robin. And I thought, well, everybody's going to pick up on this. Nobody else did. And so it went super viral very quickly. Someone sent it to Jenna. She posted it on her Instagram. For 2 hours, I was a woman because she said, I don't know who the artist is, but I love her. And so my wife was thrilled that I now have empathy for what you ladies go through, what you women go through. Because I had sisters, trust me, that was beat into me years ago. But it was on the Today Show, and I had Savannah and Hodis talking about how sweet I was, and my wife's watching this going, who are they talking about? It's crazy. What was really special about that cartoon, and trust me, I could talk for 4 hours about that thing because it was I literally ended up on CNN and Fox and Friends. I deserve a Nobel Peace Prize for that one. It was
two ends of the spectrum.
That's how universal that cartoon was. But I started hearing from parents who'd lost children. And it wasn't, Marshall, hey, the cartoon brought me hope, thank you. It was, Marshall, the cartoon brought me hope. Now let me tell you about my child. Over 1,000 people reached out to me. And I mailed out so many copies of that cartoons because that cartoon, for whatever reason, that image gave them just a moment of hope. And for me, it was just a reminder that I've probably done over 9,000 cartoons. I've probably done over 20,000 pieces of art total. But I was just thinking, every once in a while, we get that blank canvas where we can make a difference in somebody's life. And that one really did.
I remember I think my mom saw it on the Today Show because my mom had a stillborn child before me. Yeah. And I remember she was so touched by it, and she called me because at the time we were now living in Atlanta, and she said, your friend from Mississippi did that cartoon. And I said, my friend from Mississippi that did the cartoon? And I was like, oh, Marshall. And she's like, yeah, it was on the Today Show. I said, really? And so then I looked, but she loved it so much too because you just so accurately, I think, depicted what any parent feels and hopes that's exactly what it's like, that joy, that reuniting with something that didn't follow what we think is the typical order of things.
I'm going to put on my friend hat for a half second. Why I'm so proud of the fact that you do this show is the same reason. When I was diagnosed with melanoma, I got bad anxiety because 3 doctors missed it. I'm lucky to be here, but I am, so I'm still here. We did a 5K race for 10 years, and I'm not putting a medal around my neck, but what I'm saying is my friend Keith Warren and I did it, and we had a doctor there screening other people, and we caught several people that had melanomas. We gave them the same chance I had for survival. And what you're doing with this podcast is the fact that you're helping other people on this journey at the same time. And you may not know it. You may think, well, I'm doing this. But like you said, just knowing that there are people that are listening right now, they're going to get some comfort from that. And that's what happened with that cartoon, right? It just gave people comfort. Yeah. And for me, that's why I get up in the morning.
Yeah, I love that. And you've also, I know, alchemized a lot of your grief with your pets through children's books. Was there a decision to go the children's book route outside of that, or what made you decide to combine the idea of children and pets together in a book?
Oh, come on. Watch the news. Puppies and kitties are the way to go right now.
They are, actually. Can we just can we make Facebook great again and just have pictures of people's pets?
Puppies and, oh man, I have been blowing it up with my new puppy, Ollie. Trust me, he's there every day. But no, seriously, Banjo was a used dog that we got. We were his third family, so he wasn't a rescue. He was a used dog. And he was incredibly heroic. He got diabetes. He had a huge social media following. And when he passed away, I wanted to capture some of his spirit. And so I did a book called Banjo's Dream. Kids loved it. Yay. And then my mom and dad got sick and then they passed away. And I just for years, I didn't do anything else with banjo. And then the pandemic hit. And I started doing coloring sheets, free coloring sheets based on banjo and the characters. 3 years later, I had done 1,000 free coloring sheets on them. And I realized I have a book here and went ahead and did a book. But this time, Banjo's not just the hero. Banjo discovers that he's a hero because the fact that he has friends. And that was mainly, if you're going to hey, let's dive into the head of Marshall Ramsey. That is Marshall Ramsey figuring out, I can't do it by myself. I've got to have people to help me along the way.
Yeah. And I think we all figured that out in the pandemic when we were so isolated and, we just saw each other through screens and, and so it was so timely that, that we can learn these lessons through cartoons and drawing and, I say the word alchemizing a lot, but you alchemizing that lesson to yourself through all of us. And I think that's what good art, and you are a good artist, does, but anybody can create. They can decorate cookies. They can, you don't have to start a podcast.
Dance it out.
You can dance it out. Yes, you can absolutely.
I don't know if that would be good if I did that. That would probably
doesn't have to be good. Inner critic.
That would cause more grief, I think.
So you mentioned your cancer diagnosis, your parents. I know you've had a lot of career pivots. How has your art helped you navigate through those times?
Well, number one, it helped keep food on the table, which is
that's
incredibly important.
Yeah, that's important.
For me, there's two types of art. There's one, and I always laugh. My dad had a car garage, and so our cars never ran, right? So it's doing stuff I have to do sometimes. I treat sometimes drawing as a job, but there is some drawing where I get into flow. And that's painting, or if I'm drawing something where I get I've got some really deep drawings that I've done about what's going on inside of my head and some of my therapy and so forth. When you get into that kind of flow, it's literally like doing meditation for an hour. It's incredible. You don't really notice the time. It's really very powerful. And I think for me, particularly during the pandemic, I think it really helped me get through a lot of anxiety, because I just didn't know where the world was going, and I still don't really, but
yeah.
It really does help to be able to do this. I'm very blessed to have this gift.
Yeah. So I'm fascinated by this. And we've talked about this. I oftentimes have to write contracts under a deadline. I have to produce. They have to get out. And so I have a process of what it looks like when it's like, okay, Ryan, you need to write a 40-page agreement. And so there's a process I go through. When you are working and you're like, okay, I need to turn something out, what does your process look like for you? Or do you have a set one?
Well, caffeine is your friend.
Right.
Adrenaline is your friend. And that's a good deadline, gives you both. Adrenaline, and usually you seek caffeine. My process, people always talk, well, I've got writer's block. Well, I do too. I have it all the time. And everybody has writer's blocks. And the only way you get past writer's block is to sit your butt in the seat and do the work. And, so what I do
That's
is
so wise, because I will, I'm like, oh, I need to organize my desk drawer. I need to all of a sudden, everything needs to be clean.
I've got a furrow on my screen on my phone where I sit there and go through Facebook or whatever, or Instagram. No, what I do is I have, and I draw on my iPad now, but even just get several blank pieces of paper and just start sketching. I start sketching ideas. And usually do 4 or 5, and I'll give them to my editor, and she'll pick one, and then we go from there. But the main thing is my process is procrastination is a problem that comes along with some of the things that I've dealt with in my life. But because you tend to do that when you've dealt with trauma. But honestly, it's just sitting down and doing the work is the magic. And so my process is to do that, draw that, then I sit down and then to do the final drawing and then publish. And there's nothing better to see your work published. So
yeah. And for anybody listening or watching, one tool I use that helps my anxiety and helps me not to procrastinate is I have an old school winding timer that I set so that I don't even look at my phone as the alarm, and I put my phone in another room, and I will actually close my email so I don't get email notifications, and I will work until that timer goes off, and it's a winding thing, but that it's called a focus timer. I was trying to think of the word. But it really helps me because, nobody knows if I'm like trying to really focus. So they might send me a text or, whatever. And then all of a sudden I'm laughing at a meme that the girlfriend group has sent. And then it's like, well, so the focus timer is a great tool to help you to just do the work. At least it has been for me. So, I love that you both are describing creativity as like ultimately connection with yourself, but then when you put it out, that you have the ability, if you want to, that it can have ripple effects to connect with other people. So, and I found that for me, that it gave me agency. Sitting down when I'm so sad about my mom and I want to call her, and opening up my laptop and scripting out a narrative of how I hope a conversation goes makes me feel in control. I was just gonna say,
it's that, what do I have control over?
Right.
And it's usually the things that are so outside our control and we're trying to make sense of.
Right.
And now you have a pen and you have control over that piece.
Right. And there's something that feels really, really good about the fact that in this space of things that are so uncontrollable, I can control that. And so that is healing. So if anybody is listening and you're like, oh, I'm not creative, maybe just give something a try, because it can help you feel in control.
And even being an observer of art can lower our stress levels. So even if you feel like I'm not ready to engage in art making, or I don't know how to do that, like just being inspired by something around you, just being present and looking around you for art, even watching a movie intentionally, really looking and listening to the soundtrack and the cinematography, like that is something that can be healing and lower your stress level. So it doesn't have to, it can be so simple.
Yeah. Well, speaking of simple, I know you brought an activity for us to do, Jessica. So tell us about this activity. And I'm so intimidated that I'm going to try and do actual,
it's not
color art like next to the Marshall Ramsey.
Process versus product. So what we do first is we're going to take this white sheet of paper. Okay. So this is a 3-step process. Okay. So just take it in your hand. Okay. And I don't actually like a plain white piece of paper that much, because I think for creativity, we got to feed off of something else. Okay. So we're going to start by crumpling it.
Okay. I do this a lot.
And honestly, it feels really good to crumple paper. And typically I use a bigger sheet, which will feel like even better. And I tell clients, put your stress, your anger, whatever you're feeling, your anxiety, put it in this paper.
Mine's really small. What does that say?
Right. Yeah, I'm still crumpling. Some people will stomp on it. They will get stuck on step 1. They will stomp. They will throw it. So you can go as crazy as you want. Okay. But when you're ready, you kind of slowly unwrap it. And so now we've got a bunch of lines right on our paper. So step 2 would be taking a pen. I think there was one somewhere. Oh, you got a pen.
I got your pen.
No, you can go.
Okay.
Go ahead and just trace some of these lines. Okay. So some people, again, they want to do all of the lines. You do not have to do all these lines. But just start tracing and trying to block out some different sections, basically.
Ooh, I see where we're going with this. This is exciting.
And the idea for this step 2 is I'm giving you one simple task to focus on. So this is like a very mindful kind of way to engage with art. All you have to do is trace lines, right? You're not worried about what comes next. You're not worried about trying to be super creative in this moment. It's just about being present.
I'm worried that they're straight enough.
Well, yeah, there's some thoughts that may come up, and just let them go. Okay. Yeah.
So seriously, for me, the idea part is stressful, but the actually sitting down and drawing part, like you said, that's when I put on the headphones. And it's like right now, it's very therapeutic.
But once you got some sections, I'll explain step 3 would be where your creativity gets to come out. So that's where you can use these watercolors, any art materials you have, and just start putting different blocks of color. You could do different patterns. You could add some words if you want to think about what's going on inside your heart and put that in there. This is where it becomes your own art piece. And so it can be kind of your own healing or just something fun to doodle on. So this is kind of, they call it a Zentangle. if you've heard that word before.
Zentangle. How do you spell that?
Zen,
yeah.
and then the tangle. Yeah.
Okay.
So Zentangle.
I've never heard
If
that
you look
phrase
them up, there's
before.
all different kinds of ways to doodle and do it. But I love just the 3-step process of doing that, because then you have that catharsis in the beginning of crumpling up the paper. You have a mindful piece, and then you have your creativity.
That is so great. So what are some other things people could do that they could incorporate in part of their daily or their weekly rhythm to, because this is fun. I like this. I could see myself doing this, especially if I'm having a block about especially how to phrase, maybe a complex sponsorship or something like that, to just give my brain a break from thinking about the law. And so what are some other things that people can do that is helpful for them?
Well, I think, like I said, I wouldn't start with a blank page when you're trying to just doodle or engage in art. So maybe you're starting with scribbles and you just close your eyes and you scribble to music at first. Okay. And then open your eyes and look at your scribbles, and you could kind of move it around and see if you see anything in your scribbles. So sometimes you might notice like, oh, hey, I see like a little fish over here or something.
So almost like looking at clouds?
Exactly, like looking at clouds.
Okay.
Yep. And then what you want to do is try to transform it further. So like, okay, if I'm seeing it, how do I make it really into that fish or whatever I'm seeing so that other people can see it too? And so you could kind of try to challenge yourself with that of trying to turn it into an art piece, right? Or again, just kind of doodling and taking these little scribbles and filling them in with different sections. But I think it's like start with something regressive, right? Or get some clay out and just throw some clay around first and just mold it in your hand for a while and then see what comes out of it. Like, I think it starts with play and giving yourself permission to kind of just engage in that way. I think it's about mindset, really. I mean, it can happen in the kitchen, right? With cooking.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we have to cook and we hate it. And then sometimes we're like, I want to make this pasta from when I was in Italy and I want to recreate this dish, and it's memory based and it's sensory based, and I got to find the ingredients now. And so now I'm using problem solving, and now suddenly you're in a creative headspace, right? Like
from a creative standpoint, one thing I've discovered in the 3 minutes that I've made a mess here is that this allows me to be present and focused in the moment instead of worrying about all that voice that goes in my head, whether it's my grief or my trauma or whatever, or the fact I have to pay bills. But this right now, I'm just focused on this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is really powerful.
Yeah. And sometimes that's what art therapy looks like for me is like, I'm like, okay, you came in really anxious. Here is an adult coloring page and here's some art materials, and you just color and work on this while we talk.
What exactly is in an adult coloring page? That sounds a little loaded.
Right? They're just fancier.
Okay, very good. They're
Finer lines.
Okay, a little more detailed.
Make you feel a little more adulty.
Thank you. That probably says more about me than anything else, so I apologize.
I mean, there probably is those kinds of adult coloring books too.
There's something for everybody.
There's something for everyone, exactly.
I want no part of that.
Yeah, so if that's your jam, go look for that. That might help you too.
Yeah, I was thinking more like mandala, flowery.
If my wife's listening right now, I was just joking. So
right.
I don't want that for Christmas.
So Marshall, what do you tell somebody who is afraid to try anything creative? What advice would you give them?
Just pretend like you're a kid again.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's not going on your permanent record.
Nobody actually cares.
No, nobody cares, and it's something for you to do, and it's really
think about the like, what did I used to do? Like, what used to bring me joy?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I don't do that anymore. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, I tell my son all the time, like, I say to him, what makes your heart sing? And if it's not making his heart sing, then maybe we don't sign up for that sport again next year. Not just because, and of course we ask deeper questions like, is it because it was challenging, or is it truly you're not into it? Because he's of the age now where we're throwing paint at the wall, pun intended here, to see what sticks. So before we go, I ask all my guests the same 5 questions. So just off the top of your head, you don't have to think about it a lot. Jessica, I'll start with you. Okay. So what's a life lesson from your mom or your grandma or someone wise that you think about a lot that you just carry with you? It could be a saying.
So actually my great uncle had a saying that I really carry with me. And I feel like my mom and both my grandmas really embody this. But it's the saying, life is relationships. So just really simple, but it's something that I really try to live my life like and try to put, my heart into my relationships.
Yeah, I love that. What about you, Marshall?
My dad was trying to teach me how to water ski, and he nearly drowned me because that's just the way my dad taught. And I finally got it. 'Cause apparently I'm part concrete block. He was dragging me up and down the river, but I finally got up. And when I got up, he turned the boat, threw me outside the wake. I hit a stick and tumbled really hard. And he told me to grab the rope when he pulled the boat back around. And I said, why? And he said, because we're going to make your story about how you got back up, not how you fell down.
Love that.
That's so good. That's so good. So in your dark moments, Marshall, when things have gotten really loud, besides a lot of caffeine, maybe screaming in the car, what is something that's really comforting to you? And it can be a person, it can be anything really.
Love. It's loving my children, loving my wife, and getting out and walking and just being in the moment.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about you?
It's pretty much the same answer, but I would say...
You love my wife and children too?
Just thinking about my own family. But...
That's fine, you can have them sometimes.
But definitely like a tight hug from my husband really grounds me. And then I was going to say a walk outside. Yeah. Got to get outside.
Yeah.
That's total a reset for me.
Yeah. I love that. What's the most sacred and sentimental thing in your home and thing? Not person, not pet, just the thing that just you see it and it brings you joy. Y'all are in my home. I obviously have a lot of sentimental things, but what's that for you?
Probably for me, it's my photo books. I put together a lot of books of my photography and my kids. And so, and I have a memory box for each of my kids and myself and my husband. And anytime I get like a letter, thank you card or anything like that, I keep it. And I love opening that box and just kind of going through. It's just a walk down memory lane.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
What about you, Marshall?
Yeah, I was just trying to think of all the port keys I have in my house where I can touch it and it can take me back to my mom and dad and family and so forth. But I have to admit, Ollie's 5 months old and he brings me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
My puppy, not a baby. So.
Yeah. That's awesome. You're asking God one question, and it can be of the moment or just any kind of question you think about a lot. What are you asking God that you want an answer to? Or whatever you call
like in
God.
this moment.
Yeah. Or
probably, how am I doing so far? Like, am I making a difference on earth with my life journey? I think I would want to know something about that. Yeah.
I think I know you are.
Thank you.
I'm not God, but
I appreciate the feedback.
you being here, and just even this simple tool with me has made a difference to me today. Yeah. So I appreciate that.
That's really cool.
What about you, Marshall?
I generally am grateful, so I just say thank you.
I like that. All right, so this can be a little spicy if you want it to be. But what's your one ride or die swear word, phrase that you're just kind of done? It doesn't have to be a swear word. Can be if you want, but you've just had a day and you're like, and that's it.
I use shit show a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of my cathartic ones. Like, that was a total shit show. Like,
yeah. And
it usually isn't, but it just feels good, to say.
Yeah. Because I imagine when I use that word, there's a stage and there's lights and
right. I also have 2 young kids, so there's a lot of chaos in my home.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That tracks. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was just driving on the interstate and I used several of those words.
Yeah.
Driving brings it out.
Yeah, I try not to go full Roy Kent, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But I have to admit, there are times when I do sound a bit like Roy Kent.
I love that so much.
That's awesome. Well, thank y'all both for being here today. It's so awesome. And I just want to encourage anybody who is listening, just let your hands make something and see where it takes your heart. Because this idea started out as just little scribbles in my journal. And, and it has, it's helped me in ways I didn't expect that. I just said, I just want to give people a peek of what a normal mom is doing. And so I think you gave us some great tools. Both of y'all said thank you. That's it for today. You can ache for who you were before everything changed and still become someone new. Grief and growth sit at the table, often passing notes when we're not looking. This tea, this time, this space is part of your healing and it's part of mine too. You're not broken, you're just brewing. And besties, we do not gatekeep around here. So if you heard something today, learned something, pass it along to a friend who needs it. Like, follow, and come back next week. Your seat at the table will be waiting. Follow along on Instagram at How Do I Do This Pod and on YouTube at How Do I Do This Pod. DM me on Instagram and tell me what kind of grief you're holding right now. Seriously, I'll read every one and will probably be the person to respond back. Tell me what you have tried that you think might help me. I'm open to trying anything that's not illegal. Your story might find its way into one of our future episodes.